Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we go digging into Netflix. And real quick before we get into this, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, because that really does help this channel out so much. Alright, so for those of you not familiar with this channel, once a week I go searching through the popular streaming platforms and come up with 10 horror movies to recommend for you guys. And this week, I took a deep dive into Netflix and came up with 10 horror movies that I think you will enjoy. And with that, let's get to the list. Alright, so kicking this list off is a classic horror story. Alright, so this is an Italian horror movie, and I watched it in the dubbed version, which I thought was actually pretty good. There is also a subtitle version for the people that enjoy subtitles. So the name of this movie really is fitting for what this is, because there is a lot of tropes in this movie. It's not the most original horror movie I've ever seen, but I did feel that it had a very original kind of flavor on it. So it's like, even though you're seeing things and you kind of know where things are going, just in general, the overall feel and vibe and energy did feel a little bit unique, which is one of the things I love about watching horror movies done in different countries, because even when they're doing something very similar, they like to put a little bit of a different flavor on it. So this movie reminded me in ways of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of Wrong Turn, but it also has a cult vibe to it as well. This movie was brutal. It had some very graphic, gory scenes. So for any gore hounds out there, I think you will definitely enjoy it as well. But just in general, it's not anything too deep. And like I said, not the most original horror movie in the world. But if you're someone that enjoys a classic horror story, something that's just good old-fashioned horror, then I think you will definitely enjoy this one.
Tu sei la più preziosa qui.
Next, Pet Sematary 2.
Hey, what are you doing?
Getting things ready for Mom.
Mom's dead, Jeff.
So this is an oldie, but a goodie in my opinion, because I really feel like this movie does not get its just deserves. And I've never really understood why exactly, because it's actually a pretty solid little horror movie. Granted, it does have 90s cheese slathered all over it, right? But once you start to get into it and you kind of acclimate to the movie and its surroundings that you're in when you're watching this movie, and kind of push aside a little bit of that campiness that, you know, any old movie is going to generally have, you kind of start to really love this movie. It's got a lot of really interesting characters and some very, I think, iconic scenes that if more people were to check this movie out, I think they would be pleasantly surprised, because it really is a fun movie. So this isn't one of the greatest horror movies ever made or anything like that, right? But if you were just looking to be entertained, this is definitely going to entertain you. It has a lot of really great special effects that are done mostly practically. It's got some really interesting and fun characters, just some very exciting and creepy at times moments. Just a movie that I think is a lot of fun.
Pet Sematary 2.
Jeff, honey. Father and I need to talk.
Next up is the Fear Street trilogy.
There was a time when things were good on Shady's side. But now, that's all gone.
Alright, so one of these days I will still probably do a full review of these. I love them so much and I really wanted to talk a lot about them. But it's one of those things where every single YouTube channel was doing videos on it, and I just felt like I had other stuff going on. I knew that I would get almost no views from it anyway, because like I said, it was oversaturated, and I was like, you know, I'm just not gonna follow the leader, so to speak, and just do exactly what everybody else is doing. So I just decided I would wait a while to do a full review on it. But for this list, I had to at least tell you a little bit about them in case you haven't seen them. These movies are a blast. I think too many people are being critical of them because they're over analyzing them. I never read the books growing up, so I didn't analyze them from that front. And I just like to be entertained, so I never go into movies trying to look at them from a critical eye. And as far as entertaining horror goes, man, these were awesome. They took me back to being a kid, a teenager of the 90s. There's all that nostalgic for me there. And then even the 70s, I remember as a little kid, the way people looked when I was very young and seeing that 70s styles and just my parents. I don't know, there was a lot of really coolness from that angle. But then there was also just a really fun little story to these.
How do we end this?
You have to go back to where it all started.
1666.
And I loved how each one was its own movie, but yet they still really did a good job of connecting these fibers through them all to where they all told this one story as well. And damn, did they stick the landing. Because to me, I thought the last movie, the way they ended this whole trilogy, was absolutely done perfectly. It was fantastic. And one of my big criteria for if I enjoy a movie or not is how they land the ending, so to speak. Because if the ending is clunky and just doesn't feel like it really wraps things up in a comfortable, enjoyably, fun, entertaining way, then it isn't necessarily a great movie. But this really did. I just love the ending. I cannot get over how much I love the way this thing closed it up. Just in general, these were a lot of fun. And like I said, if you haven't seen them, you definitely should check them out.
Come back from that motherfucker.
Next up is the 1997 film, The Game.
What do you get for the man who has everything?
Happy birthday, sir.
So this movie stars Michael Douglas, and this is right at his prime, his peak performance level where he was at his best and just in general owned Hollywood. This is more of a thriller than it is a true blue horror, but damn it if I haven't always loved this movie so much. Especially if you've never seen this movie, the twists and turns and what's real and what's not, it's really a riddle. It's a movie for people that enjoy Saw minus the violence. Because it's got that twist and turn and revealing ending and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't really have that gore.
So what brings you to town, Conrad? Everything all right? October 12th. Nikki's birthday. This is for you. Consumer Recreation Services. Call that number. Why? They make your life fun.
So just anyone that really enjoys movies that are riddles, I think you really enjoy this movie. I think with the popularity of the Escape Room movie last year, and I don't know about the Escape Room 2 so much. I did a full review if you want to check it out, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. But just that whole concept and the way they're a mystery and thriller and all that kind of stuff, I feel like this movie is doing that, but it did it even better. Just in general, this is a badass little thriller mystery that I highly recommend.
They make your life fun.
Next up is Hellfest. Alright, so this is not the greatest made movie or anything like that, but it's another one of those movies that's really just fun. If you go into it just kind of turning your brain off a bit, this is definitely a fun movie, but especially going into that creepy time of year with Halloween just kind of right around the corner. I don't know about you, but I really started going full-fledged into Halloween come September. So you got a few weeks. We still have a few weeks left till then. But still, I'm starting to get ramped up for Halloween. I'm seeing these spirit signs coming up around town. I even today was looking online seeing if any of them were open yet. Sadly, they're not. And when they open, you can bet your sweet ass that I'll be there with my phone. And I think I'm going to do a live from a spirit.
Are you ready to enter the depths of hell?
But anyway, I'll post something about it if I do that when they open. But anyway, back to this movie. This movie has just got Halloween just jizzed all fucking over it. And ever since I first saw this movie, I've just been like, God, why can't there be a Halloween place near me like this? Why can't there be this amusement park kind of deal? Like a haunted house, like just everything this movie is. It's fucking sick. It's like Halloween Town, but for real horror, scary, adult kind of shit. Like, it's just dope as fuck, but sadly, I've never come across any Halloween village or haunted house setup or anything that's even close to this. But just setting that aside, it's a really cool, enjoyable, entertaining little horror movie that I think you should definitely check out.
Hello? Hey, can you let me out of here?
right, next we go to Army of the Dead.
Mr. Ward, how would you like to make $50 million?
So, Army of the Dead, I actually went and saw it in theaters first day, like I do with most movies, at least when they're released in theaters. And I was one of the ones that absolutely loved it. I know it's been a very mixed bag. I've seen a lot of people shit all over this movie, but then I've also seen a lot of people that absolutely love it. I'm definitely more into the I love it camp. I had a few bones to pick here and there, some pacing issues, some character issues, but for the most part, like, I had an absolute blast with this movie. And especially because that's really the whole point of this movie. I feel like it was meant to be like a graphic novel brought to life. You're not supposed to really overanalyze it.
There's $200 million in the vault beneath the strip with a 32-hour window to get it out. Find the safe. This should be a simple in and out.
It's strange to me how people can turn their brain off when they watch superhero movies and allow those universes with those laws of reality and physics and all that stuff to play, right? But yet, for some reason, they can't do that with horror, like when it's done like this. I don't know. I don't know what everybody's problem with it was, but I did see a lot of people that shit on it. I just think it's a fun, entertaining kind of movie. Not perfect, but I don't think it needed to be. I think if you're just wanting to be entertained and you haven't seen this yet, you're looking for an entertaining horror movie.
You ready to play?
That's a little bit scary, but mostly just a fun, action, gory ride, then definitely check this movie out. All right, next up is part of my double feature weekend. Sorry I missed the double feature weekend last week. I couldn't really find one that fit, but this week I brought back the double feature weekend, and the first one is Paranorman.
Meet Norman.
Can't you be like other kids your age?
His parents don't get him.
He's probably up there fiddling with his Ouija.
So once again, going into that spooky time of year, I'm starting to kind of get that itch, like I said, and one of my favorite animated horror movies ever is Paranorman. This is a very fun movie, not necessarily for the little ones though, but if you got a 10, 11, 12-year-old, then I think they'll definitely enjoy this. But I also feel like this movie is definitely for adults as well, and especially for horror fans. It just looks amazing. Like, the animation is one of my favorite styles of animation that's been done. It's not too deep, it's mostly just kind of a silly little story, nothing too crazy, but it does get a little deep at times with a fairly adult story as well. I just think if you're a fan of horror and a fan of animation, you cannot go wrong with Paranorman. It's one of my favorite spooky cartoons I've ever seen.
Paranorman.
You wanna play some hockey?
All right, next up we go to the second of our double feature weekend, and that would be Monster House.
Every neighborhood has a house with a secret.
Awesome kite.
So everything I said about Paranorman, you can pretty much hit repeat when it comes to this movie. It's a very different style animation though than Paranorman. I think I might like Paranorman just a little more as far as my personal preference, although I think Monster House is probably a better produced animated horror.
When no one believes.
The house grabs things and pulls them in and eats them.
We'll see you later.
Either way, I think they are paired perfect together. Monster House does have some more creepier moments, like almost a little more scary at times. So if you have a kid, I think they could get scared by this, any little ones as well. So just like I said about Paranorman, this is another one of my most favorite spooky animated movies. So do yourself a favor and have a Paranorman and Monster House double feature weekend.
Don't look back! I look back!
Monster House.
Stupid house.
All right, next we go to Time Lapse.
These are shots of our living room. What is this thing?
I think it's a camera.
No way.
Mr. B invented a camera that takes pictures of the future.
This is one of my favorite time travel, sci-fi with some horror moments kind of movies. It's done really, really well, and it's really underrated. It's one you just don't hear people talking about. And it's not a big budget movie. It is definitely a small kind of film. It's got a really interesting and twist and turn type of story and concept about it.
The camera spits out a photo of us in the future. Then we go about our day making a series of decisions that lead up until that moment.
Think about how much money we could make.
Yes!
This is just a start. Just smile and say goodbye to your day jobs, guys.
If you're a fan of small budget sci-fi movies, ones that are very mysterious, a lot of creepy elements, a lot of guessing game stuff going on where you're not quite sure what's going to happen next, and that whole kind of jazz, then I think this is definitely a great pick.
We're all friends, and we just need to trust that it's going to be okay.
All right, last up on this list, but definitely not least, is Blood Red Sky.
Ist das ihrs?
Ich habe ein Rezept dafür.
Ist deine Mutter immer noch nicht da?
Sie nimmt gerade ihre Medizin. Dadurch produziert der Körper.
All right, this movie was just recently released on Netflix, and I've heard some buzz about it, but I don't think nearly enough. If you're a fan of vampire movies and unique ones to boot, then I think you definitely should check this movie out. So I watched the dub version. There may be a subtitle version. I don't know. I hit play on it, and it was the dub version, so I went with it. But it was dubbed really, really well. I could barely notice anything going on. It was done that well. This is just a vicious, unique, clean, exciting action horror, you know, with a little bit of sci-fi elements to it, kind of film that I loved, man. I honestly had a great time with this movie. Sure, I could pick it apart and point out a few things that I thought could have been a little better or whatever, but I just went along for the ride and I had a blast with it. So without spoiling anything, this movie is basically about a vampire on an airplane. And yeah, I don't want to give away anything that you can't see already from these clips I'm playing or watching the trailer, but that's basically what it's about with some other details, of course. But I mean, all you need to know is that, man. Gory, bloody, fucking good time. So, I don't know, man. I had a blast with it, and I recommend you guys check it out.
The presence in there. You can see wrath.
Alright guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know if you've checked any of these out or if you plan to. And also, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and make sure to ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week. And I also want to give a massive, huge, enormous thank you to my patrons, because you guys, yeah, you guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.